Live from News Channel 8 in Tampa, Florida, this is Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now. Powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY.
Mahomes gets his Super Bowl revenge, whipping out some magic at Raymond James Stadium as all of a sudden the Bucs and the Falcons are tied in the NFC South. Is that trick? Is it treat? You guys see what I did there? It's October.
Yes.
I'm getting ready for Halloween.
You are.
And the Buccaneers just lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in an offensive just showdown at Raymond James Stadium, 41-31. Hello there to you folks on Bucs Bonus, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. Bucs Insiders, Dan Lucas. See there?
That's my Halloween costume now. Thank you.
There you go. Dan Lucas, everybody. Karen Loftus, our Bucs Insiders. I'm JB Buno here to just press the buttons and read some numbers on screen as we look here at the numbers from week 4, you guys. We're going to preview, of course, this NFC South showdown between the Buccaneers and the Falcons. But first, we look back to week 4 and the Kansas City Chiefs topping the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by a score of 41-31 at Raymond James Stadium in a high-profile matchup. Patrick Mahomes, of course, with some wizardry that we saw, Tom Brady, and what they were billing that really as their final matchup, likely to be perhaps their final matchup, right? You buy that?
That's what we said about the Super Bowl.
Right.
Wasn't that almost 2 years ago?
You never know. With everything going on in Brady's life right now, who knows how much longer he'll be playing football. That's a tease for later on in the program. As we look here at the stats in our Week 4 recap, the big thing I'm looking at here is Leonard Fournette, -3 rushing yards. The running game, non-existent. Mike Evans, of course, doing his thing, coming back from the suspension, catching 2 touchdowns. But really the story was Patrick Mahomes just elevating his game, taking on the Buccaneers and taking down the Buccaneers. Dan, Karen, what do you make of this Week 4 result between the Chiefs and the Bucs?
Well, I look back, you look at the numbers, and you see 31 points there for the Bucs. You see Brady at 385, 3 touchdowns. You think, wow, this must have been a shootout, and it was anything but. This Kansas City could have scored more than 50 if they wanted to in that game. That's how bad this game was. And for a Bucs defense that had allowed 27 points through 3 weeks to allow 28 in one half, was alarming, and then it became trying to match score for score in the second half, and the Chiefs ended up just playing defense at the end to protect their lead, and the Bucs picked up their game for sure, but they were in passing downs every single play. They had to abandon the run essentially. This was as ugly as it gets in all phases of the game, and this was, you say the cliche, Karen, is burn the tape. But I have a feeling that the Atlanta Falcons and other teams are watching this tape because the Chiefs did whatever they wanted to for most of this game.
And I think that when you look at this game, the thing that cost them was just the way it started. When you start by fumbling the opening kickoff and then the Chiefs score their first touchdown 2 plays later, then that dictates everything. And they scored, on several straight drives to start the game, and that changes your entire offensive approach. You're chasing. And then that's why you look at the rush yards and why that was so non-existent, is because that's not how the game unfolded. So you sort of throw out your game plan and just, you're playing catch up. Yeah. So I kept thinking about that game and I was like, gosh, what if that didn't happen? Like, what would this game have looked like? The first fumble, like poor Rashad White. He made up for it by getting his first NFL touchdown, which was amazing.
Remember this. So you give the Chiefs the very short field. When when you received the kickoff, they're going to receive the third quarter kickoff. You've given them a short field. They cash it in immediately. Your thoughts at that moment are, okay, you know what? Do over. When something like this happens in any sport, you want it to happen early because you get the entire game to make up for it. And then the Bucs go down. They kick a field goal. So you're thinking, all right, now it's less than a score apart. Now let's settle in. Let's play some football and see what happens. And that is when the Patrick Mahomes show began.
My goodness.
And had
some of those throws.
The one jump pass, whatever you want to call it, to Clyde.
Devin White has him wrapped up around the 5-yard line. He spins out of it. And then I forget who was defending right at the goal line.
I do too. No, it was Devin White was the second one. I forget who the first missed one was.
The first person at the goal line had to make a decision.
Yeah.
Do I go for Mahomes here because he's going to walk into the end zone? Right. Or do I defend the pass? And it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire behind him, the running back.
Yeah.
And he kind of got stuck in no man's land. So he ended up making going towards Mahomes, which
you have to do. It's like in basketball, stop the ball.
Right,
like
exactly.
that's your first priority.
Right. I'm gonna guard this guy behind me and watch him walk in. So he goes for Mahomes, and Mahomes makes this little dink over the top of him. If you're on your couch without a rooting interest in this game, you're just going, what? You're oohed and awed.
You're waiting for the replay.
What you're seeing. And Patrick Mahomes was at his finest, in my opinion. And on third downs, scheme-wise, it didn't matter what it was. 3rd and 3, 3rd and 8. The Chiefs did whatever they wanted to. Guys were open. What were they, 6 for 6 to start the night on third down before the Bucs finally stopped them. I don't think they punted until late in the game.
No, it wasn't until.
And so
I'm not sure when their
this
first
was. I'm sorry. I want to go the Bucs angle as much as I can on these things, but you got to tip your hat to what the Chiefs did.
And if you were a fan at Raymond James Stadium, you probably couldn't leave. I mean, look, if you're a Bucs fan, you left upset. The team lost. That's not what you want to see. But you saw a masterclass in quarterbacking. I was at the game beforehand with Aaron Rodgers against Tom Brady, and that was just. I left there being like, man, that was a stinker as far as a football game.
But JB, do you remember that game? Remember though, Aaron Rodgers was at back-to-back drives, motors right down the field, 14 points for the Packers, and then nothing.
Right.
That's the Bucs defense. Okay, you got us.
Right.
You got us. Guess what? You're done for the rest of the day. That's what we kept waiting to have happen Sunday night.
Yep.
It never did.
It never did.
It happened because the Chiefs said it was going to happen. That's why.
And outside looking in now, we're talking about a team, if I'm correct now, 2-0 away from Raymond James Stadium and 0-2 at home.
Yeah.
Correct.
And now 2-2 going up against the Atlanta Falcons coming up this Sunday, 1 o'clock kickoff. Before we actually preview the game with the Falcons, Karen, this is our injury report. Some notables here. A lot, of course, of focus on the offense and names like Cam Brate, Julio Jones. What's the big thing that sticks out to you here?
Honestly, for me, it's Logan Ryan. Like, he's been playing really well, and the defense, I think he's had a fumble recovery, a forced fumble, and an interception. He's just been a steady presence for the Bucs. So I don't think that's a good thing that he's out.
Yeah, I think the first 3 games, we've praised the defense for 3 weeks, and it's really from front to back. And for me, I guess if you want to say the most improved area on this football team is the defensive backfield, and Logan Ryan's a big part of that. Remember, you lose Jordan Whitehead to free agency. We kind of thought, the gang's all together. Then you lose a free agent, and you're trying to. And they draft a guy who hasn't really been able to get on the field yet, which is a corner. But the safety position was the question mark in the offseason. And between Logan Ryan and Keanu Neal, who we finally seen get in and do some action, have really done a nice job shutting down, not just containing, but shutting down passing attacks until the Chiefs did what they did.
Yeah, but also, even looking at the Chiefs as just like a separate entity, like they're a very good team. So it's like, I don't think we should be totally discouraged about how the Bucs are doing at this point, because it's like, the Packers and the Chiefs, very good. Even if you want to talk about all 4 teams.
Yeah, it's week 4. That's what I look at.
Right.
Remember when the Chiefs came here in 2020, COVID year?
Yep.
They came here and it was almost the exact same thing.
Yeah.
The Bucs, they built a big lead. The Bucs looked inept, and then the Bucs scored some touchdowns at the end. I don't remember what the game wound up being. It might have been 1 score, just over that, but it wasn't close.
And but that was the turning point.
Right. And then so now you come back and they meet up in the Super Bowl. And then that took us by surprise completely from the different angle because the Bucs dominated that night. We didn't see that coming. That's how the NFL is from week 4 to the end of the season. So I don't, as disgusted as Bucs fans were Sunday night, as far as panic and doom and gloom, no.
Right.
No, it's
early.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so we're looking here at some of the physical injuries, and I see Tom Brady's name. Of course, let's start on the physical. Right shoulder, right finger, full participant in practice on Friday. Any physical ailments going into the game against the Falcons, Karen, Dan? Anything? We know the finger injury from that awkward snap a couple weeks back, right? Is that the same injury that we're talking about?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, right shoulder, finger injury, yeah.
Yeah, he was sacked in that game.
The shoulder was from this past game.
And he hit the ground very hard. And what I remember about that was it was a 3rd down play, so they came off the field. The next thing I see was Blaine Gabbert throwing.
I remember you saying that. I didn't see that on the sidelines, but I remember
Blaine
you saying
Gabbert, who
that.
never gets up and throws. He's got his hat on. He's with Tom on the tablets, and they're talking to Clyde Christensen and Byron Leftwich. Blaine Gabbert gets up and starts throwing. And it was throwing with purpose. And I thought, oh, man.
Right.
And we knew his shoulder was bothering him.
Right.
And then Tom got up and started throwing. And I thought, well.
Wait for the next series.
We'll see what happens. And then Brady came out for the next series.
Yeah.
And even then, I'm like, okay, well, let's see. And so we kind of, and the game turned out to what it was. And he even acknowledged it after the game.
He did. And he played well.
I think so.
You know, he didn't throw any interceptions. He had 3 touchdown passes. Threw a lot of passes. If the shoulder was bothering him, granted, they had to pass and they didn't have the option. So it was really, didn't have a choice. But, I mean, he still finished the game and threw a lot of passes.
Tom Brady was if you're going to say what went right Sunday night, I put Tom Brady in there. I think he played well.
Yeah.
I think he played very well.
Played focused. I think an improvement, especially across the first 3 quarters against the Packers. Because, again, I was there at Raymond James Stadium, and the offense just didn't look like the Bucs offense that we were expecting out of the gate in the home opener at Raymond James Stadium. But I bring up Tom Brady because before we go to our preview of the Falcons matchup, I bring up Tom Brady because, of course, if you Google Tom Brady's name right now, it is not football related. Of course, the headlines that there have been, and nor he nor his wife Giselle have confirmed this independently, but there's just the tabloids. The circus has really hit the road as far as the tabloids and the sources that are talking to various people and publishing stories about how they have hired divorce attorneys. And that, of course, as far as power couples go here in the United States, and Giselle being an international icon, I mean, we're talking about one of the most recognizable global couples, period. And now we have midway through, or not even midway through, the opening weeks of what could be Brady's final season, dealing with all of this potential off the field distraction. Is there? I asked you guys this a couple of weeks ago before the news came out about the hiring of divorce attorneys, but considering how real this is now becoming, does this have any impact on Tom Brady's play? Does this have any impact on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Does it have any impact on the season overall or this week's matchup against the Atlanta Falcons?
Well, I don't know what you think, JB. Is this bigger than David Beckham and Posh on the power couple scale?
That is another power couple that is clearly
showing us how it's done.
Another,
yes, exactly.
International duo that people recognize.
Well, I'll tell you this, because I've since this news came out, I've kind of stayed away from the tabloidish side of it and kind of, in my mind, stayed with football. But I think that this is where Tom Brady, the machine, and when I say Tom Brady, the machine, I mean his whole team that's around him, his PR people, his trainer, Alex. This is where they can circle the wagons, and this is where his way of doing things will allow him to shine as a professional football player, no matter what's going behind the scenes. I think that there will be, if he doesn't snap to, there's going to be someone close to him that will get him the old smack in the face. Let's get to work today. We'll worry about everything else later. And anytime I've seen a pro athlete, and I might have said this a few weeks ago, going through any type of duress in their personal life, and it doesn't matter what it is, I've seen them treat games as an outlet and really the therapeutic, for lack of a better word, as the only safe place they have. Once they leave the field, it's right back into that world. I think on the field, Tom Brady's free to be Tom Brady, the quarterback, and do what he loves.
Yeah. And he was asked, I guess, indirectly, nobody said specifically off the field, but it was like, how do you deal with maybe the distractions this year and how are you managing that? And he, answered it that every year has its challenges. Everybody has stuff that's going on off the field. And it's a job. And whatever's going on outside of your job, you still have to come to work and perform.
If there's somebody who has been really laser focused as far as their play on the field and not letting, headlines off of the field impact their day-to-day responsibilities as a professional athlete, I think it's been really Tom Brady. really over the last 20 or so years. I mean, somebody who I think embodies what it is like to go to work and leave everything that isn't work at home. That's how I see it. So I agree with you guys. I think we're going to see a laser-focused Tom Brady coming up here against, the Atlanta Falcons coming into town as we look here at our Week 5 preview. Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Bucs, Raymond James Stadium. Buccaneers opening as a 9.5-point favorite. 1 o'clock standard kickoff. So not the first game because we have another London game coming up this Sunday. But of course, a afternoon 1 o'clock Sunday kickoff on Fox. As we look here at the storylines, we'll introduce the first one. Has Brady, putting away the off the field stuff, has Brady and the offense found its groove? We talked a little bit about, how sloppy the offense was against the Packers. And of course, now seeing 31 points get put up against the Kansas City Chiefs, the run game non-existent, but certainly some rhythm there. So are things trending in the right direction or the wrong direction for Brady and the offense?
Well, I think, and this was mentioned in the days after, that I feel like everybody in charge, Byron Leftwich, Todd Bowles, and company, let's put Brady in there as well, is conceding that maybe we are a passing team. Maybe this is just a passing offense and a fast tempo when it's needed, and we'll get the run game going. Maybe, the old adage is run to set up the pass. Maybe they need to pass to set up the run, because I do believe they need both. You got to balance it out. But I think maybe this is just a passing offense.
I think we are looking for a complete game. Like we've seen the run game do well. Like Leonard has had a couple really good games. And then we saw the passing emergence against the Chiefs, which I think in part has to do with the fact that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were both back, which bodes well for them, that those two combined accounted for nearly half of their receiving yards. So when you look at that, okay, we're getting the receivers back. Julio was, whether he plays or not this coming Sunday, he wasn't really a factor in the pass game. So even if you look at Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, that's encouraging. They're back. And now it's like, okay, let's put it all together now.
That's, you know what, I'm glad you mentioned Mike Evans, because when we were reviewing the Kansas City game and I just dashed all over the Bucs, poor Bucs, Mike Evans was tremendous.
He was.
He set 2 franchise records, or he set 1 all-time yards from scrimmage. And he moved up. He's up to 78 touchdowns. He's moved into one of the higher, for wide receivers, touchdowns all time in the NFL. He's, I know people throw it out there loosely sometimes. He is writing a Hall of Fame career.
Ring of Honor at Raymond James Stadium, too. Absolutely.
He's a Ring of Honor guy for sure, but he's, knock on wood, if health plays a part, the numbers he's putting up at the rate and the pace that he's put them up, he is going to be considered for a Hall of Fame when he finally hangs it up. And then a lot of things have to go right for that still. But that's what we're watching, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, which is a neat thing to point out, because sometimes you don't stop and think about it as you're watching it. You're like, oh, Mike Evans had a couple touchdowns and had more than 100, receiving yards. So like, just because he does it so routinely doesn't take away from the fact that it's still incredible.
And he's now become one of the longest tenured Bucs. I think only Levante David's been longer. Don't quote me on that, but he's been through different quarterbacks. He's been through different head coaches, different offensive coordinators. All these things that have changed, and the one constant is Mike Evans, who can do the jump ball. He has speed, and he can. We all know he can get the hands-on game going as well. That's one of his fortes. He just does it year in and year out.
Yeah, so
it's been great.
Yeah, and looking at the offense, just bringing that all together is. I think they are finding their groove. This is why
I think, yes, you're right. The offense coming around.
It's all coming together. And the offensive line has been playing very well, especially considering what they went through during training camp and shuffling all the pieces.
Big concern going into the season. I asked you guys about it on our first episode, and you guys squashed it right. You were like, you said, JB, don't worry about it. Offensive line's going to be fine. And you guys look.
Yeah, I think he was just sacked once this past game.
Right.
Yeah. Real quick, just a quick yes or no before we move on to defense. Mike Evans, if you're talking about the Mount Rushmore of greatest Buccaneers of all time, 4 people on that Mount Rushmore, is Mike Evans among the top 4 Buccaneers ever?
He's got to be.
I would say yes, but you can speak to like the history of the franchise better than I could because I'm a newcomer.
Well, I can remember a time, when Leroy Selman made the Hall of Fame, we thought that was
the name that comes to mind.
That was the pinnacle. And to me, as a local who grew up here and used to go to Bucs games as a kid, Leroy Selman's one of my heroes.
So he's up there. There's no doubt.
Oh, well, yeah, that's just the way I feel about him. But so okay, let's do it. Let's play the game. So you got Leroy Selman, Derek Brooks,
Yep,
Warren Sapp, and now you got to put somebody else in there.
Okay.
So you're saying Mike Evans over Mr. Super Bowl. Tom Brady.
Is Tom Brady?
Is Tom Brady on the Bucs Mount Rushmore? That's a great.
Wow.
That's
well,
an interesting.
That's a great.
Does longevity? Do you have to be on the team for a certain number of years?
The criteria is greatest Bucs ever. So that's however you define that. Is that a number of rings? Is that longevity? Is that statistical prowess? What is it?
I'll say this. Every Bucs fan remembers how the 2019 season ended. Jameis Winston throwing a pick six, his very last pass as a Buccaneer, and the Bucs went from a chance to go 8-8 to 7-9, and Bruce Arians was like, I don't know what we have here. And that set off weeks of what's going to happen here. What's going to happen? Is Jameis going to stay? And a few days later, Peter King of Sports Illustrated mentioned maybe they could get Tom Brady. And people were like, come on. And then everything changed. The whole, the course of history changed. So how do you not put him in your Mount Rushmore? He's in here two plus seasons.
But then do you kick?
Evans, you're out.
We might have to talk about. We might have to. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let you guys simmer on this one and think about it, and we'll come back to it maybe next week. Okay. Let's move on to defense. Look, as far as evaluating the defense, there was so much hype going into this game against the Kansas City Chiefs at home about the Tampa Bay defense and Todd Bowles being in the head coach position, as far as this being one of the top 3 to 5 best defenses in the NFL. Do you still feel that way? Are there red flags on defense? Do you just chalk it up this past Sunday of Mahomes magic? I mean, just Mahomes being Mahomes. Is there red flags on defense, or is this still one of the best elite defenses in football?
I think it's alarming when you give up 41 points to anybody, first and foremost. But beyond that, there is such a thing as having a bad game, and it was against a really good offense. So I don't think this is like, oh my gosh, this is not the defense. They were imposters. I don't think it's that situation at all. I think it was really good team. I think they would have liked to have given up maybe half of those points and caused more turnovers, but I don't think it's any reason to be like, this isn't what we thought.
I think you're right I think you hit the nail right there. It's you had your worst when one of the best had their best, and that just does not add up. It
doesn't add up to a Bucs win.
That's a night of you throwing fastballs down the middle, and they're just hitting home runs, and I think now with that, I fully expect, and I know we'll talk more about the game coming up a little bit, but I expect a massive bounce back. If that does not happen this Sunday, then I think we can start to go, what happens here?
Right.
I know there's a few injuries on the defense. Akeem Hicks did not play.
Correct. That's big.
Defensive lineman lines up next to Vita Vea. Those guys, what do they weigh combined? Like 700? So,
Wow.
So basically, it's like
if you have Vita and Akeem, that's 700 pounds of human.
That's like trying to run the ball through like an F-150 or something. And so that has played a factor for sure. But the problem the other night, I saw wide open receivers, wide open tight ends on third downs, and that's guys not where they're supposed to be. That's not being ready for what they could possibly run.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the secondary needs to tighten the hinges up a little bit. That's the concern.
I think the way you call your defense, basically, where do you position your linebackers? Antoine Winfield, the safety, has been used this year a little more where they bring him up towards the line of scrimmage almost. He's playing what Rondé Barber used to do.
And Vita Vea dropping back.
Yes, and so for three games. Remember, this was a huge success, but now you've got 3 weeks worth of material for your opponent to watch. And Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid of the Chiefs found something and exploited it. And you say whatever you want about the Falcons, they're watching the same film.
And if you ask Casey Rogers, who spoke with the media today, when he was asked, where can you show improvements, in defense? And he was like, everywhere, everywhere. So I don't think we're, being too specific at this point.
Is it my imagination, or have the Bucs, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, is it my imagination, or have the Bucs been less aggressive with the blitz through the first 4 games of the season? Not, what we're used to seeing as far as the blitz and getting after the quarterback.
I don't know if it's as far as blitzing goes for blitzing. Usually when they're really in a blitz, I see the linebackers participating more. I think the pass rush is just very good. And I think that they were contained the other night. Now, they ended up getting to Mahomes a little bit towards the end. Yeah, they have a lot. I forget the number where they're in sacks. They're up there among the league leaders in total sacks. So they do get to the quarterback. But, again, I think this was just one night damaged so much mojo. Statistically as well, they tumbled. All of these stats, they were either leading the league or near the top. It's like a great pitcher having one bad night and watching his ERA just blow up.
And giving up one bad pitch with the bases loaded, and it's like,
exactly. And so I think, again, we're going to talk about this. I can't wait for Sunday because it's going to answer a lot of questions.
Yes, exactly.
Answer a lot of questions. I could tell you this, as players, when you hear them speak immediately after the game, and all this week when we were able to hear from the players, they were humiliated.
They were not happy. I forget who it was. I was trying to think of who said it after the game, and you might know, but he said, we wanted to be one of the elite defenses in the NFL, and giving up 41 points detracts from that. Do you remember who said that?
I don't know if it was right after the game, but Shaquille Barrett mentioned 41 points.
I think that's who it was. Maybe.
And so on Wednesday, Shaq talked.
That might have been it.
In one paragraph, I guess, 3 sentences, he said 41 points 3 times. And the last words he said after he paused to think about his thoughts, he goes, 41 points. And that was it absolutely.
Do you think that's going to be like in a poster somewhere in their hallway?
There's some proud guys on that team that are rather embarrassed this week and probably can't wait to get to the field Sunday.
Let's move on to our third storyline on your screen. Again, Bucs Bonus, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. We're live here on WFLAnow.com with Bucs insiders Dan Lucas, Karen Loftus, and our third storyline, schedule becoming much more Buccaneer friendly, you guys.
Yes.
The Falcons, look, there's a reason that the Buccaneers are opening up as a 9.5-point favorite against the Falcons. Of course, look, there's some names on that team. You got Marcus Mariota, Cordero Patterson, who continues to do Cordero Patterson things.
He's out though.
He is out.
He's not going to
play. He's on the IR on Monday.
And by the way, he has tortured the Bucs.
And he led the team in rushing touchdowns and rushing yards, so that's major. And Kyle Pitts is out too.
Massive assist. That's an assist for the Bucs. I hate seeing guys get hurt, by the way, but because I like to see the best. But Cordero Patterson not playing is massive.
And then, of course, Kyle Pitts, the high-profile tight end, he's also out.
Correct.
So a depleted Falcons team limping into Raymond James Stadium. Dan, you already basically informed us. You're expecting a massive, resounding bounce-back victory for the Bucs this Sunday.
Absolutely. But when I look at Atlanta, now remember, Cordero Patterson's such a massive figure in their offense. A few weeks back, they went to Seattle. It's hard for teams in the NFC South. I don't know why, to go out west and play out west. But they went out to Seattle and just put on a show. And Seattle was expected to win that game pretty handily. And Atlanta won on the road.
Anytime you can win in Seattle,
yes.
I feel like it's
so that's to me that's the eye opener, that you see this 9.5 point spread, and you think that's comfortable. That's a touchdown and a field goal essentially for all you bettors out there. And the Bucs are probably thinking we need to win this by 14, 17 or more. But Atlanta is not the pushover that you might think. However, I think the Bucs are so good that 9.5 is honest. I think they better win by 10 at least.
You like the 9.5?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to use this opportunity to point out that Tom Brady is 10-0 career against the Falcons.
Wasn't there a game?
Moly. Yeah.
What was that game he was in? It was 28-3.
Ask anybody in New Orleans about that score.
What is the over-under on how many times they bring up 28-3?
Wasn't that the Falcons he was playing?
Wasn't there?
There was some
big
Sunday.
Game, something. It was
Some
a big
Sunday,
game for some
Tom
reason.
Brady, I don't know, whatever. But 28-3.
But as we talk
So,
about
yeah, 10-0.
as we talk about that's a crazy stat. As we talk about the schedule then coming up, we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, they're now looking to the future with Kenny Pickett under center. Then another team with quarterback uncertainty. You've got the Carolina Panthers after that. And then some more formidable matchups after that with the Ravens, Rams, and Seahawks. It does get harder. But the next
Ravens
two, you got to think that the Buccaneers, as far as, look, winning the NFC South, these are some of the, lesser quality NFC South division opponents that these are games the Bucs should win.
Yeah, I'll group them in the next three. And like you said, to win the NFC South or win whatever your division is, you got to win your division games. So Atlanta and then leap over to Carolina. You've got to win those games. The two games on the road, at Pittsburgh, at Carolina, it's harder to win on the road, especially in Pittsburgh.
Well, not the way it's going so far for the Bucs.
Yes, true.
Yeah,
what do I know? What do I know?
That's true.
2-0. However, Pittsburgh's going through some growing pains with Kenny Pickett. Mike Tomlin, who, by the way, never had a losing season as the Steelers head coach. It's crazy. Is facing that fact, but he is aware of what the franchise needs to do. They must turn the page from Big Ben, and they're doing it. And so the Bucs need to take advantage of that and have a big day in Pittsburgh as well. I don't think that game's going to be very easy, but it's going to be winnable, and they should win it.
But even looking at the schedule, I remember when it first came out, we were talking about, whoa, those first four games is going to be some of the toughest.
Didn't you think? Take just those first four games before we get to training camp. Didn't you think to yourself, wow, if they're 2-2,
I was just about to say that.
Terrific.
I'm pretty sure we actually said that. It's like, okay, you're looking at these teams and the Saints and you know Dallas and the Saints on the road, and then the Packers and the Chiefs, and we're like, I think we said that exact thing. If they come out of that 2-2,
looking pretty good.
you're in good shape. No,
so you go through the
So
first
here we
two.
are.
You go through the first two, and then what? Then you get greedy.
right?
And you
Because
lose
they're the road wins.
You lose the Green Bay game, and you're still thinking, wow, we can go 3-1. We can go 3-1, and then what we witnessed this past week. I think that's why now at 2-2, it's just the last game that's bothering everybody. I think if they win Sunday and they win in the fashion they're supposed to win, I think we forget about that Kansas City game.
Yeah, I'm sure the Bucs have forgotten about it.
I'm sure they have, but this makes better TV. We're resurrecting the disgust.
Again, the Falcons at the Bucs, 1:00 Sunday on Fox. Bucs right now, as of our last check, 9.5-point favorite. Let's move on to our fantasy spotlight. You guys know the drill. It's about picking a player that you just, got that warm and fuzzy feeling on the inside about. You guys being our insiders, picking a player here, somebody that fantasy players out there might want to pay a little bit of extra close attention to. What you will not see on your screen is a tight end because Cam Brate ruled out, as Karen noted earlier in the program. So we sub in Mr. Perriman, Rashad Perriman there on the bottom of your screen. Who would like to go first for our fantasy spotlight this week?
I went
Karen's
first.
going first.
I went first last time, so you can go first.
Oh, I have
feel
to
like
go first?
You don't have to.
I'm going to go out of the box.
I was just deferring.
I'm going to
just
pick one of those.
fair.
I'm going to pick one of those choices, but I'm going to go. You ready for this?
Yeah.
The Bucs defense is going to score a
Man,
touchdown.
see,
I was going to say that.
The
We
Bucs
were all
defense
going
is
defense.
going to
I was going to
score
say
a
that.
touchdown on Sunday. And by the way, our chief meteorologist Jeff Bardelli is going to be at the game. He's
in the room.
What's the
he's
forecast?
close to us. No, Jeff. Good luck.
If they win, you have to go to all of them.
Good
right?
luck. And if the Bucs win, he's committed to go at every game after that. But the defense, Jeff's going to hang around till he sees a fumble picked up by Devin White, and Devin White's going to run it in for a touchdown.
Wow, hot takes.
I want to get in on the. Can I get in on the defense
Please.
really quickly? Can I? This is my warm and fuzzy feeling. We talked about Rashad White earlier in the program, sitting on that all week long, feeling terrible about that. That kickoff fumble. How about his first special teams touchdown for the Buccaneers?
Oh, a kick return.
A kick return, man. I would love it. I would love to see it.
Hey, oh my gosh.
And fantasy, you guys know fantasy, that it's defense/special teams. So that categorizes his
this
points.
is wide open for you now.
It's all you,
Okay,
Karen.
well,
Spotlight.
I was going to go defense, but I'm not because I have to do something different. So I'm torn between Mike Evans and Leonard Fournette. I know. You know what? I'm going to go Leonard Fournette because I feel like after this past week, they're going to get the run game going. They're not going to be trailing early. They're going to be able to stick to the game plan that they're drawing up for this. And I think Leonard Fournette's going to have a big game. That's who I'm going with.
There's no way, zero chance he has negative rushing yards 2 weeks in a row.
There's no way.
It's just not human. It's not in the guy's DNA.
I think he's going to be physical Leonard Fournette in the beginning, and it's going to be what we've seen with him is physical for the first half into the third quarter, and then the guys just like don't want to tackle him. Like,
listen, I'm sorry if I'm jinxing here, but I'm predicting a big day for all three phases of the Bucs on Sunday, and I feel like if they get that lead, it's Lenny time.
Yeah.
And like you said, when you're down 2 scores and the other team's running the ball down your throat, and this guy will bruise you and just make you wish you didn't come to work, that's what will happen. And that's when he starts popping these 17-yard, 22-yard runs.
Because guys do not want, they don't want that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And the front, I don't want to discredit Atlanta's front. It's Green Bay, Kansas City, and really New Orleans too. Bigger, physical,
Very
more
tough.
fronts that are geared towards that run, kind of in the same mold as the Bucs. Dallas was a little bit lighter. It's a little bit lighter up front. They're more of pass rushers. You can run on the Cowboys a little bit better. That's one of the reasons why he had a good night against Dallas, and of course the game allowed it. But if the Bucs build a lead on Sunday, Lenny, 100 yards.
200 yards.
200
total yards.
200 yards.
I'm going to say total
You know
yards.
you're
Total
affecting
yards.
people's fantasy choices.
200 total yards because they're going to use some of the pass game too.
I love the bold prediction.
You guys went bold, so that's, I mean,
I love it.
Devin White, he's gonna do the horse thing, and then they're gonna do the rowboat. They're gonna row the boat when he scores.
Yeah. Have they done that this season?
I think they did it in one road game.
I remember seeing it.
Yeah, I think they did it in the Superdome. I think they did it in the Superdome after one play.
I remember seeing it though.
Yeah.
Why don't we end our fantasy spotlight on this? You guys know I play. How many fantasy teams does everybody have? Fantasy teams?
I've never played in my entire life.
Okay, so I have two. Dan, fantasy teams?
I'm kind of a pseudo general manager of one, but I'm not the owner of the team. I'm more of the advisor. I'm the Bruce Arians of my son's team.
The Obi-Wan of the team. I love it. All right, so I played a good amount of fantasy football, and I pay attention to fantasy headlines. And one of the headlines that has emerged regarding the Buccaneers this week is centered on one of our Buccaneers on your screen, and that being Julio Jones. A lot of concern out there that what happened in Tennessee is going to happen again. It's going to be a repeat of what happened with the Titans. Do you buy or sell the notion that Julio Jones is just too injured to be a consistent and effective player for Tom Brady and the Bucs?
Well, that's a tough one because I'm leaning towards that. I right now he's banged up and little things are happening to him. It's unfortunate to see. You hate it because of, first of all, the guy you get to know him a little bit here. It's a great guy, and a lot of the Bucs players that have known him playing against him for so many years in Atlanta say this. That he's one of the great guys. They text each other all the time, and obviously his career speaks for itself. But something hasn't been right, and there was the one play the other night where, to me, is one of the signature plays.
Yeah,
a deep ball down the middle that Brady threw that Jones was not able to get to. And my reaction was, where's Brady throwing? And then you looked, and when you watched the replay, he was just throwing it to the route. And Jones couldn't get there.
Yeah. So
and
you
it
hope
wasn't long after that he was out of the game.
And you hope that it's something that's going to be healed up,
Yes.
and that he can come back, you get some rest, and then he's good to go.
So
But you can never tell. You never know.
He's riding the bench for a lot of fantasy teams. If you're that owner, are you holding on to hope that Julio becomes Julio somewhere down
Absolutely
the line, or do you drop him?
You're not cutting him. No way.
Okay, so hold on to Julio is the advice.
I do.
Sure.
I got to see how this plays out.
Let's see what happens as far as the next several weeks. Again, coming up, the Falcons, the Steelers, and then the Carolina Panthers. And we're going to keep you posted, folks, of course, here on Bucs Bonus with our terrific Bucs insiders. Where's the applause? Let's hit the applause button.
Oh,
for
you guys
listen to the roar of the
Stop
crowd.
Man, it's
Stop.
just
Cheering for you, Dan.
You guys.
our meteorologist in here. We got
Keep
to
it down
keep
over there.
it down,
Trying
you
to
guys.
work.
Keep it down.
Yeah.
Hopefully we see cheers like this at home at Raymond James Stadium for a lot of Bucs scores, a lot of cannon fire at Raymond James Stadium. As again, Falcons, Bucs, 1 o'clock Sunday on Fox. For those who will be there, hey Jeff, what's the forecast going to be?
I don't know. How would I know?
He doesn't know.
See?
80, it'd be like high of 87, 88.
Wow,
High 80s,
toasted.
partly sunny. Man, I love it.
88. Partly. Let's play this game at the
love
beach.
it.
Man, I love it.
Yes.
Go follow Jeff Baradelli, folks.
All the warm weather.
Man, he's got you covered, and he will be there, folks. And no, it's not a curse, right, Jeff? If they, he's gonna make it rain. Bucs touchdowns, folks. We just appreciate you so much spending time with us here on Bucs Bonus, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY with our Bucs insiders, Dan Lucas and Karen Loftus, who, of course, you will catch on your official Bucs station, WFLA News Channel 8 on your side. We are here on WFLAnow.com every Friday, 4 o'clock, to pick the brains of Dan and Karen as we bring you their expertise on all things Buccaneers football. For Dan and Karen, I'm JB. Go Bucs, and we'll see you next time here again on Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY.